Let's talk about piercings. Are they allowed in the Torah? Occasionally, I've heard assertions that piercings are not allowed in the law. And I think part of the reason that there is a lack of clarity on this issue is because we don't have a good model for what biblical living is, especially for most people. Most people, the extent they see of this, or what is claimed to be biblical living according to the law, are people living according to 19th century traditions. There are a lot of Christian groups that they live and dress according to 19th century or earlier practices, and this is claimed to be according to the biblical law, but a lot of times it's not. This is not actually an example of living according to the Torah. It is an example of living according to traditions that they assume are from the law. And so the simple answer to the issue of piercings is that the Torah does not have a command that prohibits it. It is allowed according to the Torah. There are no commands forbidding them. I want to address some possible objections to this, though, or possible questions that might arise. The first is Leviticus 19:28. We looked at this in regard to the beard command in the previous video. And cutting up for vitality, you shall not give in your flesh, and writing of tattooing, you shall not give in you. I am Yahuwah. So the first thing I want to point out is that writing of tattooing is prohibited. Tattooing is not allowed. But this cutting up for vitality. Vitality is frequently used as a word for the dead. So cutting up for the dead, you shall not give in your flesh. So this is a mourning practice. It's a practice of mourning the dead, and it's cutting up the flesh in reverence for the dead. This is not what's going on whenever people get piercings. This is an unrelated issue. And also Deuteronomy 14:1. You are children to Yahuwah, your Elohim. You shall not slash yourselves, and you shall not place baldness between your eyes for one dead. So this is a similar command to what we were just looking at. We have this, you shall not slash yourselves. Now, we could say it's probably in reference to the dead because we have that previous example, although it is a different wording. And we have this context of the being joined with another verse that explicitly says for one dead. Now, regardless of whether we consider it for the dead or not, piercing is not slashing ourselves. It is a separate issue. And I want to say that this is not an issue of omission, that they had these things. They had piercings, they had jewelry, and all of that. Numbers 31:50, in describing the plunder, man which he found article of gold, armlet and band, ring, earring, and necklace, to cover on our vitalities before Yahuwah. So at that time they had rings, they had piercings, earrings, nose rings, and other jewelry as well. So it wasn't an issue of omission, it wasn't an issue of just neglecting to mention it, because we do have mention of it right here that they had it, but there's no prohibition associated with it. And so we might look to these groups that claim to be living biblically or living according to the biblical law, but a lot of times it's just traditions, and we may not like piercings or certain types of piercings or something like that. We may not like it and not prefer it. So, like I personally, I do not prefer them. But that does not change whether there is a command or not. We can have a preference of not liking something and it still be allowed in the commands. And so there are no commands regarding dressing extravagantly, regarding wearing jewelry or regarding having piercings. Those things are allowed. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out some of my other videos about other Torah issues, and be sure you stay in touch so we can continue this discussion. Thanks for watching. Remember the commands. Shalom.